We come now to San Giovanni in Laterano. On the first Sunday of Lent, the stational cycle brings us to the Cathedral Archbasilica of the Holy Saviour and Saints John the Evangelist and the Baptist in the Lateran, the formal title of this church. It's here that the Holy Father has his cathedra, the seat of his authority as Bishop of Rome, on a site given by the Emperor Constantine shortly after the Battle of the Milvian Bridge. This area is so called because it was originally the estate of the Lateran family. One member of this family, the Senator Publius Lateranus, was charged with conspiracy and executed by the Emperor Nero in the year 65. In the late 2nd century, the Emperor Septimus Severus built a cavalry camp on this spot. Part of this land was also occupied by a palace, the Domus Fausta. This would eventually come to be owned by the wife of Constantine, the emperor, who would in turn give it to the Pope. In time, both the palace and the military camp would be torn down to make room for the new basilica, the first major Christian building project in Rome. It was finished by about the year 320, being at that time one of the most lavishly decorated churches in the entire empire. Over the next few centuries, it would suffer from the various barbarian invasions of Rome, in addition to the normal decay caused by the passage of time, as well as multiple fires. After one fire in the year 1361, the author Patriarch wrote to the Pope, who was then living in Avignon, France, pointing out how the cathedral was open to the weather, while the Pope was residing in a palace hundreds of miles away. This spurred the Pope to call for contributions for the repair of the basilica. Approaching the basilica from the front, we might pass a statue across the street depicting a huddled group of friars. This commemorates the arrival of St. Francis of Assisi and his brethren to what was then the papal residence for the purpose of seeking approval for their young order. By standing behind the statue, one can see a representation of the dream of Pope Honorius III, in which he saw the humble Francis holding up the basilica during an earthquake. Continuing ahead, we see the beautiful facade, balancing grace with authority, and surmounted by statues of Christ and the apostles. One further detail as we pass are the small plaques at their bases, which proclaim this the Mater et Caput, the mother and head of all the churches in the city and in the world. We come then up to the great bronze doors, which were taken from the Senate House and the Forum, providing a perfect symbol of the passing of the Roman civilization from that of ancient Rome to that of the Christians. As once the pagan emperors, deified in their own minds, passed through these, so now does the Vicar of Christ. And so what are some points of interest in this major basilica? On either side can be found large statues of the apostles, designed by Bernini's school, each apostle holding the instrument of his martyrdom. Above the apostles are theologically rich reliefs, connecting scenes of the Old Testament on the left side with the New on the right. Above the high altar, the baldachin contains fragments of the heads of Saints Peter and Paul, and within the altar is a plank, traditionally said to be from a table used by Saint Peter to celebrate the Eucharist when he first arrived in Rome. Fittingly, the tomb of Pope St. Martin V is located here. He ended the Great Schism. as was mentioned, the papal cathedra is located front and center. Tradition also holds that a fragment of the Last Supper table is located behind the Last Supper image. And finally, there's a well-preserved medieval cloister containing many inscriptions and pieces of art from the previous basilica, found to the left side of the church. And so as we take one last look down the nave before departing, we reflect on the long history of this church, encompassing both glory and desolation. However, like the church of which it is the eminent symbol, the Basilica of the Lateran, though it has experienced much travail, will ever be a sign of the church's resilience.